and talk about what your social media says is trending. We broadcast daily to you from our studios in the California sunshine. We beam into 32 million homes and counting. Make sure yours is one of them. Go to YouTooAmerica.com, enter your zip code if your local cable company doesn't carry the premier social television network. Tell them they need to get a little Youtoo America cool. You let them know. I'm Dr. Gina. The Pope coming to America. He has made his way through Cuba and then on to the United States. He will address a joint session of Congress on Thursday, and some congressmen have said they won't attend the Pope's speech to Congress because he's soft on communists like Castro and because he has started spouting some liberal rhetoric like man-made climate change. Here to discuss is political and social commentator Barry Nussbaum. Barry, welcome back to America Trends. Good to have you. Is this Pope a political activist?
Not only, Gina, is he a political activist, he believes that's the Catholic thing to do. He says a good Catholic should meddle in social issues, and he's making that the motto of his papacy.
Now, has this been, though, the tradition of popes to get involved in politics on the policy level like this?
You know, it depends on which pope. If you go back to the Pope of the papacy of John Paul, he was much more conservative. He was tough on communism. He wanted changes in government, but towards democracy, towards liberal ideas in terms of freedom of speech and freedom of expression and so forth. This Pope is the other way. He's more of a Bernie Sanders socialist than a Ronald Reagan conservative, if you were going to put him in a category, definitely.
So how does this affect the church in terms of numbers? Are there any studies to say that more Catholics are coming toward the Catholic Church, more Catholics are leaving the Catholic Church, and specifically in the United States, what do you think the impact will be? Because obviously we're a pretty capitalist society, except for the Barry Sanders notwithstanding.
I was shocked to find out the answer to the question you just asked me. 2/3 of American Catholics support the direction of the church under this Pope, and 87 to 89% like the way he's leading the church. Notwithstanding the policies or the politics, they're very supportive of Pope Francis so far.
That is interesting. So on something like climate change, where the scientific data is really just not there, can the Pope be held accountable at all by, for example, priests who are within the Catholic Church that might say, hey, this is just not true? I mean, is there anything that the Catholic establishment hierarchy can do to sort of temper, especially the unfactual stuff?
You know, that's an interesting question, and that's a perfect example of social activism gone wrong. The Pope has come out very strongly that this is one of the great issues facing mankind, similar to President Obama. Hundreds of thousands are dying throughout the Middle East, being slaughtered, and yet climate change, which is a debatable issue where the science is still out. The issue is really, what are you going to say to the Pope? He's not up for re-election. He's a lifer. So I think it's going to be, well, we listen to his opinion, and those of us that believe, and those that disagree are free to disagree.
It's interesting because, as you point out, Christians across the globe being slaughtered, and yet the things that he's become known for really have been climate change and redistribution of wealth, for lack of better words. Neither of those two things would save the Christians being slaughtered by radical Islamists. And so has the Pope made any strong stands on those issues?
You know, it's really interesting. You mentioned Castro and Cuba a few minutes ago. There hasn't been an election there in 80 years. You're free to speak out against the Castro brothers, and you'll end up either dead or in prison for the rest of your life. And there weren't any statements about the fact that it's a police state with no rights at all. Regarding capitalism, he's called it the dung of the devil. So it's clear where he stands in terms of socialism versus capitalism. This is not John Paul. This is Bernie Sanders in papal garb. And that is his direction. And sadly, as you point out, the slaughter in the Middle East, especially of Christians, is unprecedented in generations.
Right.
And the only statements that are coming out are, please take in the refugees, which now are several 100,000 Muslims fleeing the slaughter in Syria.
Right. Which Christians, by the way, can't flee.
Right.
Right.
I would have liked to have seen some more interaction by the Pope while the slaughter was going on throughout Iraq and northern Syria, where entire communities had less than a day to convert, flee, or die.
Right. Right, and really we're not seeing any strong comments on that. If we are, they're not making the national media the way some of his other comments
certainly not.
have. So there's no rule, I guess, within the Catholic Church about the consistency among popes. You point out Pope John Paul, obviously a proponent of capitalism. This pope, kind of the counter opposite, and that's okay. I would think that would be so confusing to Catholics.
Well, the question is whether or not the Pope's job is to interpret the Bible as the Word of God, or it's to get involved in politics and policies relating to politics.
Right.
I guess it depends on which Catholics you ask. I'm sure there's a number in the GOP within the House of Representatives and the Senate right now that are feeling remorseful about John Boehner's invitation last year to have the Pope come, because this Pope is coming with a social active agenda, and he's certainly not going to be talking to the Congress about the Bible as much as he is about policies that he would like to see enacted. So you're going to have a political speech by a religious leader in the next couple of days, is my guess.
It's interesting. It'll be fascinating to watch how Catholic, whether he moves the way Catholicism goes, or whether the politics moves the way the Church goes. It'll be interesting to watch. Thank you.
Couple of days. It's going to be an interesting one to watch.
It will be. It will be. And something might trend besides Donald Trump.
Exactly. At least for half a day.
Thanks for being with us. All right. And we also have one more video for you. What is this now?
It's what Barry does in his free time.
Oh, what Barry does in his free time. Oh, no. Here we go. I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with you there, Barry. Stay right where you are. Thank you.